Hello, my name is Jordan Starr, and we're going to be learning about career development with single mothers. Single mothers can be women who've never been married, women who've lost their significant other, or women who've been divorced. Mothering can be particularly demanding for single women because they're both primary caregivers and primary wage earners for their children. Diana Lavery from the Population Reference Bureau stated that 29% of women with young children are in the labor force as singles mothers. More than 1 in 3 women with young children work fewer than 35 hours, while 2 in 3 women work more than that. Out of all the women working with young children, 3% are self-employed, which went up 2% in relatively recent years. This is because of flexible hours and location when taking care of their child. Mark Matthews, also from the Population Reference Bureau, talked about low-income single mothers. Despite high rates of labor force participations, more than 1/4 of single mothers do not have health insurance. Among those who are insured, 2/5 are covered by public insurance programs, which is an issue. But in contrast to low-income single mothers, Zoe Taylor and Rad Conner noted that although the majority of research on single mothers have focused on that, it's evident that high-income single mothers also face challenges and can experience economic pressure as well. In addition to having fewer economic resources, single mothers frequently have fewer emotional resources due to their high demands of raising a child without the support of their significant other. High stressors such as everyday hassles, social isolation, and financial strain result in single mothers having a higher risk for emotional distress and disruption in parenting. Some history in women in the labor force. Traditionally, women were considered housewives, whose only job was to create life and take care of the house and children. Women prior to the 19th century had more opportunities and career choices, but oddly enough, after the 19th century, they were only limited to factory labor or domestic work, except if they were teaching or writing. Some discrimination against women began to appear. For example, the American Medical Association barred women from membership, and they also couldn't attend men's medical colleges. Women responded by making their own. But by the 1910s, women were attending many leading medical schools, and by the 1915, the American Medical Association started to admit women back. Teaching was a big career path, but only in elementary school and high school. A small proportion were college and university teachers. A great majority of women who are still employed are in lower paying jobs like retail, factory work, and clerical positions. Although today many opportunities have opened up for women's career, not all paths are seen as possible and are often pursued less. Some concerns about women in the workforce. There is an idea that because women will marry or are married, they're not considered permanent workers, though this is proven false because most actually continue their jobs. Another crucial issue for women in the workforce is maternity leave. This is like a time off that's paid when they have a child, but compared to other countries, the US kind of lacks in that department. Many other countries give them a good amount of time with their child and that are paid. Miller, who wrote The Simple Truth, talks about the wage gap based on a median earning in the United States. The wage gap between men and women is 20%, which really affects how much women can provide for their family, especially if they are single mothers. And I also hate to say that it's true, but the chance of getting hired if you're a woman is really affected by your appearance. This idea is unfair, trust me, and objectifying, but it leaves some qualified women with lower or no paying jobs just because of the way they look, which is definitely a concern for women working. Here are some theories that relate to single mothers. Holland's theory is based on a person's personality. They often will gravitate to a work environment based on what matches that personality. But this theory is heavily dependent on standardized testing and failed to address the impact of race, gender, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, and the ability status. So with Holland's theory and single mothers, I think it's a great first step by helping mothers choose career paths based on their personalities, but must keep in mind that mothers are unique individuals, so they won't really fit in these cookie cutter molds that standardized testing might do. Another theory is Super's developmental theory. It has 6 major roles: students, child, worker, citizen, homemaker, and leisurelite. The client can see what role is most important and relevant to their life at the moment, but they can also project in the future what these roles might entail for them. This theory might discriminate for minorities and people in poverty. So when using this theory with single mothers, counselors should be attentive to their clients' socioeconomic standards and cultural differences. Donna Palladino-Skouthis thought this theory was a step up from Holland's, in which they saw women as a mother role, but still don't acknowledge homemaker as a same role as workers. Donna also talked about another theory that combines Holland's and Super theories, Gauss. It applied role concept to role choice, transition, development, performance, disengagement, and relinquishment. The theory involved role negotiation and problem solving. Gao talked about dual careers, making it possible to be a mother and a worker at the same time. A mother's role is created by the relationship with her family. She might have her independent roles, but also her roles are affected by the status of other members. She might have to step in where others are weak, vice versa. Gauss made parenting roles a work role and career counseling and changed the idea of what work was. So definitely very capable for working with women, because it kind of gave them more of a choice and idea for what work they could do. Valerie Ward wrote Career Counselings of Women and Girls, and in the article she talks about a collaborative action working group on counseling that created some guidelines for working with women and children. One guideline was understanding assumptions underlying various theoretical approaches, and like I was mentioning before, this means just being conscious that all theories are the same for women as there is for men. Another guideline is to have no preconceived limitations on the direction or nature of potential change or goals. Because women are capable of pursuing many careers, and just because of their gender, culture, or socioeconomic status, should you limit them for pursuing something that could potentially be life-changing? Career counselors need to have the knowledge of support systems available to women, like healthcare classes and daycare. Career counselors need to keep themselves updated on the bias and issues for women in the workforce, but also be aware of their own biases. And last, don't assume her difficulties are just based on gender, but can be because of cultural and situational factors. I think this is really important. Some people aren't struggling because they're women, they're also struggling because of other things, and by saying that, you're limiting them and not really helping them as well. Some assessments that I think can be very valuable in career development with single mothers are the Life Design Genogram, value card slots, and possible self-mapping. The Life Design Genogram helps plan their future from reflecting on their past and present relationship. It's a narrative approach, and it reflects on the dreams and aspiration of each person who appears in the genogram. Then they reflect on both ascribed personalities and qualities attributed to that person. They note any messages handed down by generation and any personal motto. For single mothers, it's a way to visually break down her family career history and notice if there's anything that might spark potential paths that she can eventually pursue that she might not have known about if she didn't put it down on paper. The values card slot is an assessment that makes meaning of an experience that is unique to them and their current development journey, which for single mothers, everything is unique to them, and it is important not to group all single mothers together. This assessment allows restriction on specific labels that provide a foundation based on interest or values, approximately 50 cards labeled with these specific values, and it identifies personal preferences. It reflects on a personal meaning that these roles might play in the career development for the client. And I think this assessment is valuable to single mothers because it actively designs their life, something that single mothers might put on hold because they're taking care of their child. It's also a way for her to see herself as a person and not just the role as a mother. The possible selves mapping encourages clients to expand their concept by thinking about who they want to become, who they hope to be, and who they might fear they might become. Then elaborate on each possibility and how to possibly get there. It's a great way to talk about all possibilities for women who have to take care of the children while developing their career. The counselor can perform reality checks to the fears that she might have being a single mother and trying to work, also while helping realistically plan out potential career choices. Also, just to note, I read an article about promoting strength and resilience in single mother families, although it wasn't really an assessment. It was a review of literature on interventions with single mothers. They noted that single mothers tend to be more socially isolated than married mothers, work long hours, and receive less emotional and tangible support, and have less of a stable social network. This results in mothers being more depressed. They noted that self-efficacy and self-esteem are also associated with higher levels of positive adjustment. In the review of the social support interventions, they saw that having a good social support system improved their mood and self-esteem, and this was through group interaction or a buddy phone call system. In the review of interventions to bolster internal strengths and coping skills, they saw that teaching many single mothers to perceive themselves as capable, competent, and instilling a sense of optimism, saw that how they developed their coping skills as well. Some of the practices were cognitive reframing, changing negative and irrational thoughts and replacing them with more positive ones, and just finding ways to boost happiness and positive emotions. Some takeaways that I think counselors should know with working with single mothers is that a single mother can't pursue her own career fully until she's capable of providing for a child. A counselor has to be patient and willing to help with the resources they can to focus on herself when her child's needs are met. Her mind and heart will just not be in it if she's worrying about her child all the time. In order to meet her where she is, it's important to take any cultural views on being a single mother. Some cultures expect women just to be caretakers, and you kind of need to know where they are if they need to become someone to provide income. It's important to help them to create support systems, like I mentioned. Make sure they have any family or friends that can reach out to, and make sure they have any access to daycare programs or healthcare. This reflects on their needs being met first before they can pursue their career. Wes Miller and Moat did an interpretive phenomenological study, which they had 6 participants interviewed. They identified as single mothers and had a child in a local university early childhood educational center. It was a semi-structured interview, and they followed up with a focus group. They concluded that school teachers, staff members, and administrators have to be mindful of tangible and intangible support that they provide to single-parent families, like tuition assistance, training for staff to be more empathetic to both the parents and the child. They emphasize their support system. If they can have everyone on the same board helping out single mothers, it prevents less stress for the mother and essentially helping her pursue her own career. Some art therapy interventions that I saw working with women in the workforce, not necessarily just single mothers, was a quantitative pilot study by Huss and Sarid. 35 participating health professionals participated in 2 free 5-hour workshops on images. They were actually called distressing visual images, which relate to their work setting. They transfer these images through imagery and compositional element and drawing, and the results were a decrease in SUDS levels due to the sense of control they got by taking them. Workshops by Claren Clark-Shark and Turner were stimulating a learning and growth process by heightening self-awareness. It involved lecture, audience, small groups, discussion, assessment, art movement, and they were asked to draw themselves, how they saw themselves, and it resulted in self-awareness for participants, for capitalizing their strengths and minimizing the way they felt about themselves. So art therapy can be helpful for helping them gain control about it. And here are my references.